Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and tomorrow is the day. Neon Knights, the midset expansion for Gizmos and Gadgets, is released, and this is the patch 12.4 rundown that accompanies it. Now, if you're somebody who's highly engaged and has seen all my rundowns and stuff like that, and maybe played a bunch of PBE games, this video might be a refresher course for you. You might want to fast forward through it. A lot of the stuff you'll care about maybe is at the end. You can also check out the full changes that have happened on PBE on like Twitter, stuff like that. This video is actually more for people who didn't really play PBE. This will go over all the changes if you're a 12.3 live player getting ready for 12.4. So check that out. If that's you, great. If not, then maybe pass on this one. But yeah, so it's just me tonight. It's Valentine's Day. Kids are in bed. Families, doing their thing. Everyone else is busy. So you just get me today. But we're going to power through this and talk about what's coming to 12.4 because it's a lot. So let's jump into it. First thing to talk about is this is a very large mid-set expansion. We have removed 21 champs, I believe is the count here. You can see here Twisted Fate, Graves, Garen, Katarina, Kog'Maw, Tristana, etc., etc. Don't need to name them all. But I think some of the biggest losses people are feeling are definitely Janna and Yuumi. They used to be kind of slotted in pretty much every comp. Now they're gone. You'll also notice there's a lot of 4-cost carries that have been swapped out. One of the big goals for this mid-set expansion is that even if you're playing an older trait like, say, Chemtech or Mutant, that it plays a little differently. And so you'll have to think about it pretty differently. So if you were used to playing some of these champs, sorry, they're gone. Some new champs have come and take their place. And then as far as traits go, Sister is gone. We'll talk about why a little later. Academy is gone, Imperial is gone, and Protector is gone. So that's it for Gizmos and Gadgets. Let's see what's new. The first new trait is called Hextech. Hextech is a big vertical trait. It has 7 units in it. You can get up to an 8-piece. It has a lot of very good early game power with Jarvan, Nocturne, Sejuani, and Swain. Very good, easy way to get 4 Hextech in early. Highly recommend. In the late game, it has Alistar, one of the tanky Colossus that replaces Sion. Maybe not as good CC as Sion, but let's be real, Sion was a little strong anyway. Sivir is back as a 4-cost, does that cool bounce move. So a lot of cool champions here. And the way the trait works is every bit of time, you get every 6 seconds, you get a shield that lasts for 4 seconds. And while that shield is active, you do additional bonus damage. So you can see here, your Hex Core procs that lightning, everyone gets a shield, and now everyone does bonus magic damage. So pretty cool. Hits your whole team. Only hits the Hextech units though. So for example, if you're only splashing 2 Hextech, only the 2 Hextech champions will get the shield. This is just for Hextech champions, not for everybody. Cool. Another new trait, this one's a little more confusing, is called Debonair. And the way Debonair works, it's pretty boring trait as far as like the passive goes. Everybody gets health and AP. Pretty straightforward. But inside the game, sometimes you will find a VIP in your shop. So for example, this Leona in the top right corner here, that is a VIP Leona. Now you can only have one VIP at a time. So if you buy this Leona, you'll never see another one. And only Debonairs can be VIPs. And if you're running 3 Debonair, the odds of seeing a VIP go up a lot. We're talking from like 10% to like 75%. So very large increase. So your goal is you want to basically play 3 Debonair or 5 or 7 for a bigger bonus and make sure you have at least one VIP. Who is your VIP? Now, what does the VIP do? It gives the specific champion a unique bonus. So for example, Brand, his spell is he shoots a fireball, and if they were already ablaze, that fireball does bonus damage. But his VIP bonus is that he fires 2 fireballs instead of 1, the second one dealing a little less damage, but he can do a lot more damage. Syndra's, for example, is that the area of effect of her spell gets larger and knocks up enemies for 1.5 seconds, so you get some extra CC. Talon becomes a true damage terror, applying a bleed that will probably kill anyone, including tanks. Leona becomes a very, very good solo tank, regenning herself for 0.8% of her max health for every unit targeting her, so it becomes an amazing solo frontliner. Draven, probably one of the most exciting, gains infinite attack range and ignores 50% of his target's armor. Very strong. And Zeri, one of the new 5 costs, Her spell lasts until the end of combat. She never has to recast it. So pick your VIP, win with them, can do some cool stuff with Debonair. Striker is the third new trait. This is a very straightforward one. It's a new class. Really simple, but we needed to add something pretty simple. They gain bonus AD. Pretty straightforward. A lot of these champions really like AD, Sivir and Aurelia especially. You get bonus AD. There's also an emblem for all three of these traits, a craftable emblem. So for example, you can make a Striker emblem, you can make a Debonair emblem. Good times, good stuff. Yeah. There's also a bunch of other new champs that aren't even part of new traits. Corki, new Yordle Twin Shot. He's the AP carry of Yordle. Yordle, it kind of switched. It used to be Heimer was the 3-cost AP, Tristana was the 2-cost AD. Now it's Corki is the 2-cost AP, and Gnar is the 3-cost AD. So give Corki a try. Ashe, a new Syndicate Sniper. Morgana, a Syndicate Enchanter. Very good tank in the front line. Give her tank items. She'll tank very well. Kind of reminds me of Vex. Senna is a unique Socialite Enchanter. Very weird itemization. I think it's going to take a while for people to really learn. But she's actually kind of an AD carry. She uses things like Deathblade, i.e. Shojin, and can do that to do a lot of damage while also healing. So she's actually a pretty cool AD carry. Tryndamere is back, but as a 3-cost, very strong champion. Ari is a new 4-cost. She casts her Spirit Fire, but the orb goes forward and back, and every time she casts, she gets more and more orbs. The orbs do additional damage, so if they hit the same target, they do a bunch more. But basically, very ramping champion. Kha'Zix is a 4-cost assassin, jumps around, hits very hard. And then finally, one of the new champions, Renata Glask, applies a big AoE poison, and that poison burns for a lot of damage. Very good Morello applier, very good with Gunblade, can do a lot of damage. But you have to keep her alive. If she dies, the poison goes away. So kind of a positioning puzzle and an itemization puzzle on how you keep Renata alive. So some pretty cool new fun champions in there. Well, there's also a new trait, Rivals. So if you remember, Vi was a 2-cost before, and Jinx was the same 5-cost, but they were sisters and they had to work together. Well, the story has progressed. Now they're rivals, and so you actually don't want to play them together. If you don't play them together, Vi gets a 20 mana reduction, which makes her spell only 20. Very cool. And then Jinx gains that same bonus as before. So basically now the trick is you can't play them together, or at least you shouldn't. So should opening some new things to think about, and there's definitely comps where you're like, oh, I wish I could play them together, but you can't. So deal with it. And finally, Silco. Silco the Mastermind. Silco has a really cool trait here, the Mastermind. The 2 hexes in front of him start with an additional 40 mana. This is great for champions like Victor, if you want to get that one really important cast. He's also a scholar, so he helps his team build mana. Definitely one of those champions that you can kind of slot in. But be careful, his spell hits the lowest health ally and gives them a bunch of health and a bunch of attack speed, but 8 seconds later they die and explode. So if you have like a super tank, maybe you don't want to run Silco, but if you're running a very explosive comp, Silco can be really awesome. So, okay, as far as system changes goes, the only item change that you should be aware of is Guardian Angel is gone and has been replaced with Edge of Night. Very similar effect, except when you drop below half health, you then briefly enter stealth, cleanse all your negative effects, so things like Malzahar dot, Talon dot here, as you can see in the GIF, all gone, all cleared, Morello, etc., all clear. And then when you come out, you have a bonus 40% attack speed. So it is one aggro drop. It kind of works like GA, but without all the confusing states like Urgot, where he was like in the kind of dead state and then would keep casting. It's very confusing. All those buggy states should be gone. So give Edge of Night a try if you want to keep your carry alive, protect them. And during this thing, it will prevent a one-shot. So if you have like a big, I don't know, big ult coming towards you, like say a big Cho'Gath 3 bite or something like that, the Edge of Night will prevent you from being one-shot. So, again, very similar function, just hopefully a little bit more clear and a little less buggy interactions. Another big change. This one's a really big one here. A lot of you have been maybe using add-ons or things like that to know who your possible opponents are. We've built that into the game, to be fair, on both PC and mobile. And so you can see here in this example, the sword icons on the right that you can see on Shinkro, S. Judd, and M. Sloan, those are all viable next opponents. And so one of my next opponents will be one of those 3. And you can use this tracker to keep an eye on who you should maybe scout, who you might face next. Use that to your advantage if you want. But again, now everybody has this built in, fair to everybody. Cool. Awesome new feature. Engineers worked really hard on this one. So glad to see that get in. All right. As you know, with Gizmos and Gadgets, the big thing was augments. We shipped a bunch of them. Well, there's a bunch more. We've added more than 80 new augments, a bunch of new things to play with. Here's just like 5 examples. I'm not going to put the whole list in this video. If you want to check that out, there's a bunch of sites that have them all up there. But there are 80 new augments of a bunch of variety. The big thing here is a lot of them are more sort of the, not generic, but like anyone can get. They don't rely on the traits. And so that should open up the game so you're not always seeing like Thrill and Celestial Blessing every game. Should see a lot more variety in your game. I know on PvE it's been a lot of fun. There's also a lot of really great ones. I recommend Recombobulator, but you know, pick what you like, see what you have fun with. Let us know what you think. A lot of augments. Yeah, a lot of fun. In addition, we updated some of the existing augments, especially a lot of the trait-specific ones. You're going to see that a lot of them now make it easier to get into the trait, so that you can get get the champion. So for example, you see Cutthroat here. It says, hey, if you play Assassins, you get that Mana Reave, but they also give you an Assassin to get started with the Talon, or Runic Shield to get Swain. We also made some changes like Broken Stopwatch, which is a really good augment, but not at 1.4. Well, guess what? It won't appear at 1.4. So a lot of changes like that. Going to try to power through these so you can see what they are. Ready? All right. Ardent Sensor now gains a Lulu, so you can get an Enchanter. A little small nerf. Cutthroat we already saw, gain a Talon, small nerf. Duet, small nerf, but gain a Senna, which is really good early, because now you can just start, you can start with that ability right away. Unguard, slight nerf, gain a Warwick. Knife's Edge ends up getting a little bit buffed with a lot of its key users gone. We're putting it back to its power. You don't have to deal with as much of like the Yone, Fioras, Shakos with this augment, so we think it should be better here. Lifelong Learning now gains a Syndra, so you can get right into that Scholar and start sacking that Syndra, but doesn't work on PvE rounds, so take note of that. One for All now grants an Ash instead of the old champion. Payday now grants an Ash. Portable Forge, Obsidian Cleaver just gets a very slight nerf. Pirates grants a Quinn. Self-Repair, slight nerf, but now grants a Zillion, so you can get an Innovator. Shrug It Off now grants a Sejuani. Sniper Heart now grants an Ash. So Small grants a Corki. Stand Behind Me grants a Blitzcrank. And you see we're just kind of picking the 2 costs here. Twin Shot Heart grants a Corki. Unstable Evolution, we fixed a bug where 3-star champs with items were getting more stacks than intended, so that's fixed. And gets a Rek'Sai, so you can get into Mutant a little quicker. Armor Plating, small nerf, gain a Cho'Gath. Broken Stopwatch grants a Zillion but never appears in the early game. Clear Mind can now only appear on 1.4. Clockwork Crest really wasn't doing very well, so we just removed it. Maybe it'll be back. Probably not, though. Gold Reserves, small nerf, gain a Quinn. Instant Injection, gain a Warwick. Junkyard, gain an Ezreal. Scholar Crest, gain a Zyra. Sharpshooter, small nerf, gain a Corki. Smoke Bomb, gain a Talon. Spellblade, small nerf, gain a Swain. Then in the Prismatics, Celestial Blessing 3, never really exciting to take, small buff. Cybernetic Implants 3, small buff. Enforcer Soul, never exciting to take, period. It's gone. Thank God. Hate that augment. High-End Shopping grants 5 gold, give it a buff, and it'll never appear in the early game where it's a bait. No need to bait players. Makeshift Armor 3, slight buff. Socialite Soul now grants 8 gold. And finally, Woodland Charm will never appear in 4.6. So, good times. No more baits. And then finally, some tier changes. Share the Spotlight has been upgraded to tier 3 and gives 125% of its bonus and grants a Senna. So this is really great. You get this on 1.4. You've already got the Hex. You've already got the bonuses. Good to go. Chemical Overload grants a Warwick and Zac at tier 1 and tier 2, but there is no tier 3 anymore. And same with Runic Shield, grants a Swain and a Vex. There's no tier 3. So there you go. A lot of augment updates. Trying to get that augment system a little more balanced and a little more healthy for the game. Moving on. One more cool change here. We added a couple more different possibilities and removed one of the lame ones. So you can see here, Gold, Silver, Silver used to be 10% of your games. Now it's 0 because Gold, Silver, Silver was kind of lame. We added Silver, Prismatic, Prismatic. and gold prismatic gold, so that now when you get that prismatic second, it's not necessarily guaranteed what's going to happen. The overall odds of a prismatic at all went up very slightly, and then we redistributed the 10% from the gold, silver, silver into things like silver, gold, gold. You can see gold, silver, gold went up very slightly, but yeah, just a slight redistribution here. But overall, some new possibilities and got rid of the one of the lame ones. Cool. All right. Existing balance changes to things that already exist. Bruiser, 6 and 8 get a slight buff. So going Bruiser vertical can be a little more fun, especially if you want to run like the new Vi carry or something like that. Challenger gets a slight nerf at 2. It's much easier to run at 2, especially with Warwick and Tryndamere paired together. But with the loss of Yone and Fiora, it's actually pretty hard to run vertical. And so if you do, you're going to get rewarded for that. So 6 and 8, slight buff. Chemtech, this one's a little weird. But we decided to shift some of the power out of the attack speed buff and into the health regen. We wanted it to be more that chemical sort of healing fantasy. And so at 5 and 7, they get nerfed on the attack speed, but buffed in the health regen at 3, 5, and 7. And then 9 is a lot harder to hit this time. And so 9 just gets to be this really exciting chase trait that's now even more attack speed and more health regen. Clockwork 4 and 6, pretty hard to get, not that exciting to run. Buffing that very slightly. Easy change. Colossus. This one was rough. Colossus were really hard to balance. 1 stars were terrible. 2 stars were OP. Or 3-star Cho'Gath really OP. This change allows us to kind of shift that a little bit. So now they grant a bonus 800 HP innately, but their base HPs have been lowered. What this means is the star up multiplier doesn't scale as much, which is great. So now I think, for example, 1-star Cho'Gath is actually really good, but 3-star Cho'Gath is nowhere near as insane. You're probably not going to hit those 11k health Cho'Gaths that you used to. Same is true of Galio. Galio 1 now much more playable, but Galio 2 a little weaker. So ends up being a little more healthy, and you can actually play those 1-star Colossus. Enforcer. Enforcer's much easier to access, especially with Jace and Vi both being very desirable units now. So to pay for that, they get a 1-second nerf on their duration. So Enforcer won't quite lock down the carries quite as long. Innovator. Innovator, frankly, was a terror in 12.3. I honestly think we probably should have nerfed it. Kind of a miss on our part. If there was a patch post-mortem, we'd be talking about how Innovator ended up way too strong in 12.3. Definitely tore up PBE for sure as well. So we are nerfing it a bit. So the base health of the bear goes down. And remember, the base health is what's being multiplied by each star level. So that is a pretty significant nerf to the bear. Same with the dragon. The dragon loses some base health, but the dragon also loses a second off its fear duration and 20% crit damage off its buff. So again, still very powerful. I'm not worried about it, but it's not quite the easy win that you can force all you 12-3 forcers out there. I see you. Scrap, only a small change here. They got a little bit smarter. Units like Ezreal and Aurelia will no longer roll Gunblade or Morello. Note, this doesn't affect binary airdrop, though. Just scrap. Socialite got a bit of a refactor here. The One Piece is nerfed because now there's 4 Socialites instead of 3, so it's much easier to just slot in 1 Socialite. But we added a new chase trait so that the augments are a little more fun. And that's if you can hit 5 Socialite, all the bonuses are doubled, which means you'll get 30% damage, 8 mana per second, and 66% Omnivamp. Can do some really fun stuff with 5 Socialite. Finally, Twin Shot's another one that got a big refactor here. It used to be a 2-4-6. Now it's a 2-3-4-5. Makes it much easier to kind of slot in, kind of reach that pinnacle. You can see the percent chance to proc an AD there. And the other thing to note here is that Twin Shot now works on all abilities for the Twin Shot. So Corki, Lucian, Jinx is, I guess, the one exception. She's not going to like double cast. But Gangplank, it was already clear that it worked. They can double cast their spells. So Twin Shot Corki, for example, will shoot 2 big, powerful AoE missiles. That's really good. So yeah, consider Twin Shot. Finally, Mutant. The only really nerf here is that Cybernetic went from 1,000 health to 900 health. But other than that, the big thing here is now there's a Mutant 7. And so every version of Mutant 7 now has a chase trait. You can see Adrenaline Rush, 100% chance to proc, and 40 AD. Bio Leeching is a ton of Omnivamp. Cybernetic is a ton of HP and AD. Metamorphosis stacks even more defenses. Synaptic Web, we can't lower you more mana, so here, have some AP. Voidborn, do a ton of Void true damage. And then Darkstar, get even more AD and AP. So, yeah, Mutant 7 should be fun. On the champion side, some champions still exist, but got some pretty big changes. So, for example, Kassadin is no longer a Protector. There isn't Protector anymore. He's a Mutant Scholar, and he gains some additional health. Ziggs gained some extra AD, so that's good. Blitzcrank is now a Scrap Bodyguard. He lost Protector, so, you know, got to deal with that. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that. Swain. Swain was an Imperial, is now a Hextech Arcanist, so he moved over to the Hextech trait, and got a bit of a spell nerf. He was a little strong at the end there. Talon is now a Debonair Assassin, so it's interesting that Swain and Talon won't work together like they did in the first half. And it got a slight buff at 2-star, nothing special there. Just to make that jump from 1 to 2-star a little more worth it. Cho'Gath gets a very slight damage nerf, especially at 1-star, a little bit at 2-star, not at all at 3-star. Again, this is to make up for the extra HP that he gets, so he's actually a lot better. Echo, probably one of the bigger changes here. Echo is now a Scrap Innovator Assassin. This makes Scrap very easy to slot into Innovator. Makes Innovator, like you can run 5 Innovator for Scrap very easily. The champion itself also got a bit more survivability, so he's got more HP, more armor and MR, more AD, so he hits a little harder, but his spell doesn't quite hit as hard. So just a little bit of a shift in Echo identity. Gangplank gets a bit of a buff. Never really panned out as an exciting carry in the first half of the set, so hopefully in the second half, maybe some 3-star Gangplanks can finally come out and do some real damage. And then finally, Leona is a Debonair Bodyguard now instead of a Academy. So very, very Debonair, that Leona. Malzahar gets a slight nerf. Mutant 7 really kind of made Mutant have a higher ceiling. And that higher ceiling potential means they kind of have to be a little weaker in the early game. So Malzahar just gets a very slight nerf. It pained me to do it. Really, it kind of hurt. Vex. Vex is kind of the linchpin of the Yordle comp and the Arcanist comp. Really needs to be a premier tank, and so she's getting a bit of a buff. Some armor and MR and some spell shield. Don't worry, she's not going to be like that pre-launch Gizmos and Gadgets Vex. But a little bit tankier. And then Zac. Zac's another one that Chemtech really losing Mundo kind of hurt their tankiness. So Zac gets a bit of an identity shift here. His spell is going to do less damage. So you can see there it went from 525 to 400 at 2-star. But he takes 75% reduced damage while casting his ability. And you've seen his ability takes a while, right? He's got that 1 arm, the 2 arm, and then pull. So he can be pretty tanky during that. Combine that with things like Shrug It Off, maybe some extra healing from Enchanters, stuff like that. He can be a pretty good tank now. So don't sleep on Zac. Braum, we are lowering the CC on Braum. Let's be real, Braum was a nightmare. He could AoE CC people for 3 seconds, and by the time they came out of it, he might cast again in some of the right comps. So we're lowering that to 1.75, 2.25. But if you hit that 3-star Braum, have an 8-second stun. Enjoy that. Orianna, now that Janna is gone, we don't really have this problem of, you know, the Orianna, Janna, Yumi comp just like CCing and AoEing everything and healing back to full. So it's allowing us to shift Orianna's identity back to more what we want it to be, which is a little bit less damage. That should say spell damage, not spell healing. It's a little less damage, but a little bit more back in the shield. So the shield should be a little stronger, damage should be a little bit lower. Seraphine. Seraphine's another one I think that got a little out of control in 12.3. If we talk about innovators being strong, Seraphine carry ended up really, really strong, probably too strong. So we're lowering her damage and her attack speed boost. She just gets a nerf. Sorry. And then Vi. Vi is actually now a 4-cost. Probably, I think this is the first time since set 1 where we've moved the cost of a champion, but they stayed in the set. So Vi is now this cool 4-cost Enforcer Rival Bruiser. Easily, I think, the most flexible champion in the set. Can use a ton of items. Can be put in pretty much any comp. Her and Sejuani work really well together. Get that Enforcer Bruiser combo. But yeah, I expect to see a lot of Vi in a lot of comps. Uses Ionic Spark and Blue Buff very well. So enjoy that. And then finally, Galio. Again, part of that reducing as much CC. Galio's spell is now going to stun for less time. It also lost the whole, like, the higher health he had, the more stun it became. So 2-star Galio, really not the big AoE stun bot he was. Instead, that has shifted into the damage. So you can see here, the spell damage looks nerfed. For example, at 1-star, it went from 200 to 150. But the spell also scales with his max health. So the higher health he is, the more damage it does. For example, an unitemized Galio 1, this will give him an extra 100 spell damage. So it's actually 250, which means it's a buff. He's doing more damage. And that's unitemized. Give him Warmog's Redemption if you want, and that'll scale even more. Only the spell damage number scales with AP, and then he also scales with HP. So you can do some cool stuff with that. Jinx has grown up a bit and is going to be a little deadlier on this half of the set. Now I scrap Rival Twin Shot. Gain some armor and MR to make her a little bit more survivable, and her rocket launcher is going to hit a little harder. But the real catch is, Jinx's problem was often she would launch, maybe attacking their Scion or Braum, go up in the air, come back down, and keep attacking that Scion and Braum, and then just kind of die. But after casting her spell, she goes a little crazy, and now every auto will just switch targets. And so even if she was stuck on a tank before, she comes down and is now just shooting up everything. And remember, her rockets are AoE, so you can do some big damage into some big groups with some big items. I recommend something like a BT, IE, and maybe like an Edge of Night or something like that. And you can do some cool stuff with Jinx now. And finally, Tahm Kench got a nice quality of life change. He has a progress bar when you feed him, so you can see how long it's going to take, see that it's happening, gets fed. Cool. And that's it. That's all the changes. So a lot to go over there. Hopefully I went through it pretty quick. But again, if you're a 12-3 player going into 12-4, these are the changes you can expect. A lot of new augments, a lot of new champions, a lot of power dynamic shifts. Hopefully some new puzzles for you to solve, some new stuff for you to play with. Like I said, I recommend Recombobulator. Golden Egg has been some of my most fun. But yeah, have a lot of fun with that and should be exciting. Like I said, it comes out tomorrow, local time, usual patch times. Ranked reset kicks off. There's also new cosmetics to buy. The battle pass is one of the most generous we've ever had, with the 3 maps and a free tier 3 map at the end, assuming you bought the pass. And then there's the new arena. So yeah, a lot of cool new stuff. Neon Nights should be a blast. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Can't wait to see you guys do your rank climb. And should be fun. Oh yeah, and double up and hyper roll and all that. So yeah. All right, that's going to do it for me. Can't wait to see it. Have fun. Enjoy. And until next time, take it easy.